In December of 2024, the internet lost its collective mind over the Doctor Who Christmas special Joy to the World, and many of the complaints levied against that episode are totally valid. Making the birth of Jesus Christ a canonical event to the history of Doctor Who, though, doesn't really break the lore, since Christianity and Christmas have always been present in the world of the show. And the Doctor has even made some cheeky references to this very biblical event.
This Christmas thing, what's it all about?
Long story. I should know, I was there. I got the last room.
But a good rule of thumb is that if you put Jesus in any media which is not explicitly religious, you should expect to get at least some level of backlash. Anyway, I'm not really sure who these kinds of episodes are for. Personally, I try to stay out of the whole religious rigmarole. I am a deist, and I don't really like seeing real-world religious events playing out in my sci-fi TV shows. And I have to imagine that most Christians don't like the idea that the sign of Christ's birth was the result of the time travel shenanigans of a godlike alien being. Now, I could talk all day about the implications of this depiction, and that's without getting into the many leaps in logic present in the script's resolution. You know, like the fact that the wise men's camels are already there, despite the fact they should have been following this very star for the last several weeks, or how Joy clearly didn't get enough distance from the Earth before becoming a star. She'd either have to be traveling at several thousand times the speed of light, or she would still be in the solar system when she becomes a star. It would be a disaster. There's a Latin joke in there for you. But anyway, I don't really want to talk about any of that because, for one, I'm late to the punch. I wasn't making videos in 2024, so I couldn't do a video on this topic when it was topical. But more importantly, those things aren't what really bothered me the most about the ending of the episode. No, I didn't care about the religious aspects. I didn't care about the leaps in logic. I thought it was all pretty funny. But what really got me was that latest addition to Steven Moffat's collection of cosmically undead companions. Welcome to the All Trades Jack channel. I am the titular Titillating Jack, and I'm back with another Who Essay from the USA. In this series, I, a big-headed and uninformed American, speak ad nauseum about the British cultural institution that is Doctor Who, all while trying not to become an enemy of the crown. Today's Who Essay: Why Steven Moffat Can't Seem to Kill Anyone, with one very weird exception. Now, he really can't help himself, Steven Moffat. You give him a likable character and he will find a way to both kill them and infinitely preserve them. It's a problem which plagues so many of his episodes and does not only apply to companions or even one-off companions, but just to any characters that he sees fit to immortalize. Somewhere deep down, I think he really hates killing characters. Steven Moffat seems to be afraid to let go of the characters he's written because though his episodes feature a lot of death, very rarely do those deaths have any finality or any weight to them. Even when a character isn't functionally immortal, many characters in Moffat's episodes seem utterly death-proof. I'll circle back to Joy here in a little bit, but first, I want to demonstrate what I mean by going through some of Steven Moffat's episodes. And by some of them, I mean I'm going to go through every single episode that Steven Moffat either lead wrote or was one of the primary co-writers on. I know obviously in his era, he's got a lot of episodes he wrote on that aren't his episodes. We're not going to go into all that, but I'm going to go through a fine-tooth comb and we're going to see just how many deaths did Steven Moffat undo. And while he was at it, how many immortals did he create along the way? But before we get into all of Steven Moffat's official episodes of Doctor Who, first we have to talk about his first episode, and quite possibly his best, and that is The Curse of Fatal Death. It is a spoof which rips on many of the classic tropes of the show, but it also foreshadows much of what the modern era would come to be defined by. It's humor, it's self-aware referential humor, it's metatextual kind of identity crisis that it's going through. It also predicts a lot of actual plots. We won't break them all down here, but the important thing is that Steven Moffat wrote this story, and it was his first chance to play in the Doctor Who sandbox. And one of the things this episode is best known for is the Doctor dies in it multiple times. He keeps dying and keeps coming back as different famous actors, which was a great bit for the special, because it meant that a lot of different celebrities could come out and do this charity event, which is the real reason that they did it. But I can't help but feel like this was an early sign of what Steven Moffat really liked to do. Here was this character that he could kill and kill again and just keep bringing it back over and over and over again to his delight. And we will see throughout time that this is one of his favorite things to do when writing Doctor Who. And it all begins in Moffat's very first episode of the show proper. And that is the two-parter, The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances. And it's best explained with that iconic line from Christopher Eccleston.
Just this once, everybody lives!
After being treated to an hour and a half of a gas mask zombie apocalypse with a London Blitz backdrop, the Doctor revives every single life lost. Hitting a big undo button is pretty common for Doctor Who these days, and even then it wasn't unprecedented. But that's not even the part that I want to focus on. No, I want to talk about Captain Jack Harkness. I understand that Jack was probably already scripted to survive because he's a major part of the finale and episodes moving forward, so obviously that's not the issue. And I am aware that his cosmic immortality is not the byproduct of a Moff script. So again, I'm not nitpicking any of that stuff. That's not what we're here to talk about. I want to know why we felt the need to do a Jack fake out death in this episode. If Moff wanted a big emotional death scene, he could have zombified Jack and had only one convoluted death reversal. Instead, Jack has his own special near-death scene where he rides a bomb like a cowboy for some reason and accepts his death before the Doctor saves him in a way that makes me reconsider, why exactly did Adric have to die in the circumstances he did? That doesn't seem to add up, but that's not what we're here to talk about. The story ends and everybody lives, but it won't be just this once. In his next couple episodes, Moff's love affair with killing off characters via long-lived lives is going to begin, and obviously it starts with Madame de Pompadour. And he didn't give Madame de Pompadour immortality. Obviously not. She is a historical character. She is locked in her setting, so of course he didn't make her cosmically immortal. But this is the first character that he lets live to death. Now, she died young, that's understood, but she died young in history. She did live her entire life. Nothing happened to her in the episode that wouldn't have happened to her if the episode never happened.
Started well, that sentence.
It got away from me, yeah.
However, there isn't a need to show us her death in the context of the rest of the episode, other than for the emotional rug pull of the death moment. And this is important because though I don't think Moffat likes to kill off characters, he does love the emotional rug pull of having a character die. He likes to have his cake and eat it too. Let characters die and live long lives, or at least full lives. By his own definition, I guess you would say that Moff is a psychopath, and he turned his own psychopathic tendency of making people live to death into what I would consider to be his most notable contribution to the Doctor Who bestiary. That is, of course, the Weeping Angels. Blink is an episode which feels very scary, but which doesn't actually have any frightening or terrifying outcomes. Not for any of the characters. Not only does everyone technically survive, they just get sent back in time and they don't die until they've lived full lifespans, but they also seem happy. They've all had new families. They find people. They get married. They have kids. They've got jobs. None of them are destitute. None of them are miserable. They're all happy and they live long lives. And total side tangent, but I feel like there's something to this that we really don't talk about enough with the Weeping Angels, because people, other than in the hotel, people usually live long, happy lives because the angels need to make sure that you do, because they need you to live as long as possible for them to feed off as much potential energy as possible. So I imagine this idea of weeping angels just after they've sent you back, going back in time with you and making sure you live as long as possible, like protecting you from stuff falling on your head, making sure you've got car insurance and stuff, like your own little guardian angel, you know. But anyway, not only is none of this scary because you're going to live a long life, but, you know, I'm actually really kind of jealous of anybody who does get sent back in this way. Seriously, I'm not kidding. What would that be like? So I would get sent back 60 years so that I could live to be an old man. That'd be great. Yeah, send me back 60 years. Let me go back to the 70s and be able to buy a house. Yeah. Oh no. Don't touch me, Weeping Angel. Blink, 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 blink. Moff's next episodes are the two-parter Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. And this is where he goes from just saving people so that they can live their lives to saving their lives for them to continue to live forever. Now, once again, every character in this episode does live in some form. All the lost people are returned. All of the surviving people of the crew are saved and make it out of the library, and those who don't, who got killed in the episode, all get saved as data ghosts. And those data ghosts are placed into an infinite world of stories that they can adventure through. And all of the bad stuff about that digital world that they had seen throughout the episodes, all that's been fixed. There are no downsides. They are just in this perfectly preserved world of adventure. Now, this probably isn't the afterlife that most of them or most people would want, but it is a little bit better than,
"Hey, who turned out the lights? Hey, who turned out the lights?"
Neither the 11th Hour or The Beast Below have a single on-screen death. There is the life or death option that's featured in The Beast Below, but that turns out to not actually be one, as the space whale has no intention of killing people unnecessarily. And the kid who died at the beginning of the episode, he was fine all along too. However, the Moff's next couple of stories would be full of casualties, and these ones would stick. The clerics in the Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone episodes, to my knowledge, are the very first deaths which Moffat lets stand. 8 episodes in, and he finally killed some people. And he chose to kill the clergy, these Anglican Marines. That is interesting, isn't it? What does it say about it that he chose to kill these people? Well, we can't say anything at this point, right? It's just one example. I'm sure this won't become a pattern. And, you know, maybe there was just no way to write a way for these guys to be saved. Maybe there's just, he wrote himself into a corner. Except that the thing that killed these Anglican Marines are weeping angels. And he instead specifically wrote in a way that these weeping angels wouldn't be able to save you. They don't send you back in time. These weeping angels, they just break your neck. Now, why don't they send you back in time? I don't really know. They say it's because they're too weak to do it, but that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, does it? Because how would a weeping angel get stronger? By feeding on temporal energy, which they do by sending you back. So it seems like that would be what they would do to get stronger. They wouldn't break your neck. I don't know. It just seems a little strange that Moff went out of his way to take this creature that was capable of killing somebody and not killing them, and specifically making it so that he could kill these people, these clergymen. Now, again, I know we started by talking about the weird religious aspects of Joy to the World and how I'm not going to touch it. So I'm just noting that these are the people he chose to kill. I'm not saying there's anything going on here. In fact, we're moving right along, but we are marking this for the future.
What was that about? But that's a church for you. No offense, Bishop.
Quite a lot taken, if that's all right, Doctor.
His next outing, the Pandorica opens, and the Big Bang once more assert a status quo of unkilling people. But not only individuals, the entire universe this time, including people who were presumed dead since before the series, like Amy's parents. This is the level that we've reached now, but you have to understand, we are deep in Moffat's showrunner era. So you have to understand that this is having deeper implications on the characters. By this point in the story, Rory has already died and come back multiple times. Amy and Rory and the Doctor all died together, at least once that I can recall. The other writers in this era are writing these kinds of fake out deaths and undo deaths. Things like this with these characters are prevalent in this era. And with the oversight of Moff, I don't know how much of this is him or how much of this is just other people. And he's like, oh, these are the ideas that I like. And so he's selecting for writers who are writing that way. But there's just a lot of this going on. The whole plot of A Christmas Carol is basically, what if I refuse to let someone die? So this fits perfectly into the Moff's MO. Next up, he's got The Impossible Astronaut and The Day of the Moon, which has the death of one character at least. God, what was her name? There was one character. She was in the bathroom and the silence killed her. What was her name?
Joy. Her name was Joy.
Oh, that's... Anyway, let's move past that. Let's not think about that. Anyway, these deaths, they don't really offset the fact that these episodes also have death scenes for every single main character. All the companions and the Doctor. All of which are undone before the end of the act that the death takes place in. The Doctor dies by the lake, and then he comes back in the diner. The companions all get shot and thrown off buildings, and they are all fine. Then the Doctor gets put in an unbreakable prison that he is not locked in. It's just one fake out after another for the whole first act of both of these episodes. Then you have A Good Man Goes to War, and it has a few deaths, mostly a few nameless characters. That we have nameless Silurians. We have Dorian, who gets his head cut off, and he gets put in a box. So he's fine. Again, yeah, he's in a box, but he's functionally immortal. But he's named. He's a named character, and he gets a box. All the unnamed Silurians, they stay dead. There are another group of people who die in droves in this episode, and that would be Anglican Marines and headless monks. So, religious order, they die in droves in this episode. So once again, I'm not saying anything. I'm not like making any grand statement about Moff's weird religious phobias. I'm not saying any of that. I'm not saying that there might be something deeper to the religious aspects of the Joy episode, because we're not talking about that. We're just talking about cosmically undead companions and the Moff's inability to kill people. That's all we're talking about. I just noted that it's interesting that once again, he's killing specifically men of the cloth. That's who he's comfortable with killing. That and lizards. So, again, I'm not saying anything. Up next is Let's Kill Hitler. And it features yet another Doctor fake-out death, but no real casualties, while also providing an explanation for the earlier fake-out in The Impossible Astronaut. The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe is not only casualty-free, but it too features a retroactive life-saving as the mother saves her husband from his death in the first act of the episode. Now, I know you may think that this one is a little unfair because it's a Christmas episode and they're meant to be fun, but let me remind you of just a few Christmas specials from years gone by. I'll continue to go episode by episode here in a bit, but first I have to talk about something else. We've arrived at a very important watershed moment, and that is the poster child for Moffat's collection of cosmically undead companions, one Clara Oswald. Now, Asylum of the Daleks has no direct casualties, as in no one dies on screen. However, there are dead people in it. There's the crew of the Starship Alaska, there are the prisoners of the Dalek camp, all the people who basically become Dalek infiltration drones. All those people are dead. They did get killed at some point, but note that they are Dalek infiltration drones. It sucks, but hear me out, it's another form of immortality. They are not dead. They are alive. Memories intact. And if we are to believe what we've seen multiple times in other episodes and other settings, if you've still got any connection to your humanity at all, maybe you can turn it around and be a human again. You know, Clara in this very episode she fights the fact that she's a Dalek. Well, I should say Oswin fights the fact that she's a Dalek. So if you're strong-willed enough, being a Dalek infiltration drone, you could just be a good guy Dalek infiltration drone. You could do it. It is possible. So this is just another form of immortality. It might be the evil version, but there you go. Oswin, like I said, she also gets preserved as a Dalek, but even that's not the end of it, because we later learn that this is only one of an infinite number of Clara Oswalds, all splintered and scattered throughout the Doctor's timeline. So she's dying here, but she's dying for a purpose that she chose and is fine with. Now, I'm not going to get all in the weeds about how or why or if this story works. I'm not interested in why, if she's met the Doctors, all of the Doctors of the past, why Matt Smith only seems to recognize her from like 2 places previous, or why sometimes she's just Clara plopped down on the timeline and sometimes she's got a fully developed alter ego at a fully ingrained life and she is like a person living in the world with no knowledge of the Doctor or anything like that. I'm not here to talk about all that stuff. I'm only interested in the fact that she dies and dies again, but always comes back in the end. And this isn't even her only infinite ending, but again, we'll get to that. We have the Angels take Manhattan, where once again, we have the Weeping Angels, and this time they are living people to death on an industrial scale. To anyone actually caught in the hotel, this would be horrific, and not at all the pastoral life that Kathy Nightingale had in Blink. However, our companions don't get stuck in the hotel permanently. Rory and Amy do both get taken by Weeping Angels in the end, but they are outside the hotel when it happens, and they're sent to the same time and place where they have each other and live long, happily married lives together. Also, the hotel seems to have never existed now, so anyone who was caught in it is also probably free and living fine. Everyone should have come out okay in this one. Nobody actually died. Of course, it's played as a tragedy, and again, I'm not here to nitpick this and say things like, oh, well, the Doctor could still visit them by going to the past somewhere that's not New York and just have them meet him there, or that since River obviously sees them in the future, since they have the plan about her publishing the book that starts this whole bootstrap paradox, it means that she sees them again, which means that he could see them again. No, I'm not here to talk about any of that, as much as I would like to. No, I'm just here to point out that these characters didn't die. Not when we lost them. They lived long, happy lives. Well, I'm assuming happy, but definitely long. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that somewhere along the way, something must have clicked for Moffat, because from this point on, there is much more death in his episodes, even if he still has the same tendencies. Maybe having a couple undead companions and a impossible girl all tucked into his back pocket made him feel a little bit more steady in his resolve. We have the Day of the Doctor and the Time of the Doctor, which both feature full-scale wars with what look to be fatal explosions centered on living beings. No named character deaths, not that I can recall in any of these, but people are dying. However, these episodes feature some of the biggest retroactive saves and stake deflations of any episodes. I mean, in Time of the Doctor gets infinite lives, seemingly, and in Day of the Doctor, the whole planet of Gallifrey is apparently fine and has been fine all along. So, I mean, and here we had, this is maybe even bigger than Big Bang and Pandorica Opens, because in this one, now we're looking at not just a planet saved. Yeah, sure, all the planet is saved, but it's also a planet full of regenerating, virtually immortal time travelers. You've opened up a whole new paradigm of history by allowing these people to exist. So, like, I don't know, it's one of the biggest saves. We can argue whether it's a bigger save or bigger retroactive save than rebooting the entire universe, but either way, it's a pretty massive moment. With that, we've come to Peter Capaldi's first episode, Deep Breath, and it does have a casualty. It has a very explicit casualty with the eye donor. He gets his eye pulled out, and there's the inference of many other casualties because of all of the bodies inside of the restaurant. All of those were built from people, so a lot of people died. We can argue whether or not that doesn't really give them immortality, because the robots already existed and they just put the skin on. So yeah, that's fully dead. Those people are fully dead. So we can give it to Moff. He was getting comfortable. In fact, Moff got so comfortable killing characters, he seemed to almost do it offhandedly in this era, even to some season regulars such as Danny Pink. Yeah, that's right. P.E. got run over in the street like a real schmuck, a regular, ordinary, permanent death. A real grounding, permanent moment that shows how far Moffat had come and how much he'd learned since, no, I'm just kidding, Danny Pink became a Cyberman. Actually, he became a super Cyberman with all of his love and loyalty and duty and service to protect people, all of that intact, and he got to save the day. But no, actually, I'm just kidding. Danny really did die. He really did. He had to sacrifice himself. Except then the Doctor opened up a portal where he could walk into the world from heaven and he could live again. Now, admittedly, Danny doesn't live again because he chooses to save a kid instead. And we love you for that, Danny. You could have been one of Moffat's cosmically immortal people, and you weren't. And that's great. But we did open the door for it. We did say, hey, if you wanted to, everyone could live. Just this once. Just this once, everyone could live. But no, Danny did die, but only because he chose to. It was his choice. After that, Steven Moffat's right back to his old ways with that Christmas special, which was all some big alien hallucination, and none of it actually happened. And then there's that 2-part Dalek story that has no exterminations in it. Then, of course, there's The Girl Who Died, a story about a girl who lived forever. And this is another watershed moment because, again, you can think about River or Amy or Rory or the Splinters of Clara as all being main characters or side characters, whatever you want to think of them as. Me gets the infinite ending treatment, and she's not a companion or a pseudo-companion. She's just a random character we just met. And it would be one thing if she got the immortality and we moved past her, but we did not. She continued to be important for several more episodes in a big way. Like, she has a big role to play in Clara's story, even moving into the future beyond Clara's ending. So this is not a little thing here, turning me into an immortal. This is a big moment here. And in his next outing, Moff would make yet another cosmically undead companion out of a side character with the death of Osgood in the Zygon inversion. We don't know which of the Osgoods died, the Zygon or the human, but the implication is that there will always be an Osgood to keep the peace. So on the one hand, maybe Osgood the Osgood we know is alive. There's a Schrodinger's immortality. Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. We don't know which one is. But even if she is dead, there is the functional immortality in the sense that her face, her personality, her mission, her values all continue in perpetuity without her there, in spite of the fact that she may or may not be dead. Next, we have the episode Heaven Sent, which I will speak no ill words against because it is a masterpiece. That said, though, for a man who likes killing important characters without letting them die, I cannot imagine an episode more perfect for him to have written than this one, where he just gets to kill the Doctor over and over and over again. Its sequel, however, is a very important one to our discussion, since Hellbent is where Clara ascends to the throne of the cosmically undead companion kingdom. Clara ends her arc in the last second of her life, living forever between heartbeats as she sets off with her own TARDIS and her own cosmically immortal companion. So, in addition to being infinitely present in every moment of the show, before this moment, she also exists as an infinite space-time splinter moving into the future of the show. She is a Doctor-level character, whether you like it or not. But not to be outdone, another one of our previous entries into the Cosmically Immortal Club comes back for an extension to their already ended / infinite life. In the Husbands of River Song, we learn that the long-anticipated night on Beryllium was in fact 24 years. Supposing they used the TARDIS or vortex manipulator to travel during that time to put off the slowly encroaching dawn, there is once again an infinite span of time in which River's story can continue. And the Moff must have decided to take a new approach after that, though, because his next episode was a kind of soft reboot. An episode entitled The Pilot, with a new companion, a new look, and a fresh start for Doctor Who. This could only mean that Steven Moffat was ready to do something new. Or he could just kill off the companion's love interest in the first act and then turn her into an infinite space-time travel being made of sentient spaceship oil in the following act. That could also be cool. Now, we do get a few gnarly deaths in Moffat's next episode, but those all turn out to be in a world that's an entirely simulated world. None of it actually happened. And then he follows that up with the pyramid at the end of the world, which features the undoing of the Doctor's blindness, another classic Doctor fake-out death, and a big reset button, which makes everyone in the world forget the alien dictatorial regime they lived under for maybe months. I'm not sure how long it was. Again, I think it was at least months.
Do you have any idea how hard the past few months have been?
Nothing groundbreaking in this spat of episodes. Just a lot of anti-stakes. Just a lot of pretend death. Nothing real earth-shattering. But Moffat was saving the big guns for the finale, in which he kills a companion in earnest, blasting Bill right through the chest and carving out a hole the size of a cantaloupe. Of course, she survives this. And honestly, I'm not chuffed about that. Because her slow and agonizing life trapped in the hospital and her gut-wrenching, horrific transformation into a Cyberman are some of my favorite bits of horror in Doctor Who. The problem comes an episode later in The Doctor Falls, where Bill gets saved by and then becomes an infinite space-time being made from sentient spaceship oil. That brings us to Moffat's last episode as showrunner, and in it, he undoes the one bit of tragedy to Clara's story by helping the Doctor to remember her. In addition, he also created Testimony, a technology which can theoretically make any character who has ever died in Doctor Who come back as a perfect replica of their living self, right down to their emotions and their imperfections. This means that he or any other writer in the future can ignore the stakes of previous episodes and just bring a character back and plop them into the story, and it will be fine. Truly, he went out doing what he loved. That brings us right up to the present, and before we can get back to Joy, we should probably talk about the other Moffat story in RTD2, and that is Boom. Now, Boom has a lot of anti-stakes and a lot of fake death. Of course, there's a companion death. Of course, the whole thing looms around the idea of the Doctor dying, and he comes close, but he never does, of course. And, of course, the companion death is undone. We know all of that, of course. There's a war going on, but actually there's no war at all, so it's over now. Of course.
Of course. Of course. Of course.
We're not worried about all of that stuff. We're not worried about all of that anti-stakes. We already knew all of that. We do have to note that there is another cosmically immortal person here. I say cosmically immortal. This is another data ghost. There's a lot of his immortals are really just data ghosts. That's all they are. This one's called something else, but I'm calling it a data ghost because he's had this idea over and over and over again, and he just keeps redoing it in different forms. But yeah, here we have the one guy, the father, who gets stuck as a data ghost inside his little fleshlight thing, and he sends kisses. But there's also the other guy who dies, and he actually stays dead. So we have one true casualty, and then we have a couple of fake outs, and we have this one who gets immortalized. But in case you haven't seen the episode, and you wanted to take a random guess at this point to see how well you know Moffat, if you had to guess who the two people who died were, the one who died and became a data ghost and the one who died and stayed dead, if you had to guess what their profession was, what do you think it would be? What do you think it would be? Yeah, no, of course, they're Anglican Marines again. It's men of the cloth. Once more, he finds it in his heart to kill a guy, and this is who it is. I don't have a thesis. This isn't the point of the video. I just wanted to talk about cosmically undead companions. I really didn't want to talk about the religious stuff, but
you know why? Because they have faith.
Shut up!
Faith! The magic word that keeps you never having to think for yourself.
But this episode really does have everything you could want in a Steven Moffat episode, and I feel almost like he didn't know if he was going to have another one. Like, he came back for RTD2. He wasn't sure how many episodes he was going to get, so he was like, oh, I got to get it all in there. Let's slip in a villain guard. Let's get some Anglican Marines. Make sure we kill some of them. Oh, but if we're going to kill people, can I get a data ghost in there? Yep, let's get a data ghost in there. Fake out companion death. Maybe a fake out doctor death. Maybe that's too far. You know, he's trying to jam in all the Moffatisms into this single episode as if he wasn't going to get another try. But then he did get another. Maybe he knew it was coming, maybe he didn't. But he ended up with one last go. One last attempt to make his mark on Doctor Who. What we get in the episode Joy to the World is truly some of the most Moffat I've ever seen in my life. Okay, let's take this from the top here. First of all, what do we expect that we're going to see? Of course, there is going to be some fake out deaths. And all along the way, we're being told to care about people. We need to care about this Silurian guy. We need to care about this guy who's the maitre d' of the place. We need to care about all these people. We need to care about Joy's mom. We need to care about all these people really so deeply because guess what? They're all going to die. Oh, don't you feel bad for them? They're all dying and it's Christmas. Don't you feel bad? Except, of course, don't worry because they're saved as what? Of course, data ghosts. Yep, they are just saved as data ghosts. Don't worry, we're all in here. We're doing the mission. We're saved. It's the same thing. He's doing it. He's doing the same thing again. It is the same thing.
You can't keep getting away with it. He can't keep getting away with it!
But this one, I think, is worse than any of the ones that have come before it because there's an extra sinister layer to this. The Starseed is a bad thing. It is a weapon made by the bad guys. It is for, maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe I'm missing something so blatantly obvious here. But the Starseed rewrites people, and it makes them see the star as a good thing. So how does the Doctor know that Joy is just actually in charge and happy to have this star? Or how does he know that she hasn't just been overwritten? She tells him, no, I know what you think, but that's not what it is. And he just takes that at face value and runs with it. But, like, how do you know? You didn't even sonic her or anything. Like, how do you know she's in control? And even if she is in control, she's following the plan. The plan was that the Villain Guard Corporation was going to put this Starseed on the planet in dinosaur time. She brought it there. It survives on the planet for a really long time, maturates, and then arises in the proper time. And that's exactly what it did. Did I miss something? The Starseed was made in exactly the time and place it was supposed to be made. Sure, it has Joy as the operating system, but the Villain Guard Corporation's still going to come and harvest the energy from it, right? Did I miss something? This doesn't seem like a happy ending. It just seems like the Doctor quit mid-episode. It seems like it played out exactly how it would have played out had he never shown up. And what are we meant to take from this? That it's okay if the bad guys get their objectives so long as people smile and feel good about it? I mean, man, in an era that also has that spy episode, that police state episode that ends with saying, actually, don't worry, the police state's pretty good. You know, considering some of the other episodes in this, or this is the same era that it's like, oh yeah, your people are being genocided. Well, what if the Doctor beat you up and gave you over to a corporation? Like, this whole era, it just feels like it was riddled with just punching, the episodes that are punching way down. It's weird. It's weird that it feels like it's saying, yeah, don't worry, little guys, you know, you might be absorbed into the corporate homogeny. You might just be a part of the machine, but, you know, you're all in there together and you're a family now. Like, that's some corporate brainwash bullshit. I've been in enough, like, team building exercises to know that fucking language. So, yeah, no, this is Moffat at his absolute worst. It's all of his worst tendencies, and it's servicing a script that does, it would be generous for me to say the script does nothing. It does active damage, I think. And I'm not even getting into the depictions of COVID. And again, I'm trying not to touch the religious aspect as hard as Moffat makes that to do. I am just talking about the fact that these deaths, once again, it removes stakes entirely. And all the people who die in this episode, all the things that we were told were bad in this episode, they just happen and it doesn't matter. And not only does it not matter, it's one of the Doctor's great achievements, apparently, because then when he dies later, he comes back to look at this star and be like, oh, what a joy. Is it a joy? Is there not a corporation that is harvesting it for building weapons? Man, I just don't know. I don't know with this episode. It is absolutely peak Moffat, but maybe that's the worst possible thing an episode of Doctor Who could be. Anyway, this one was fun. I enjoyed doing the research for this one, going back and watching a lot of these Moffat episodes. And that might be hard for some of you to do these days. I don't know. Maybe this has changed in the time between shooting it and posting it. But currently, the old episodes are nowhere on, old episodes. New Who is not available anywhere on streaming here in America. I'm fortunate enough to own everything on DVD, and I have a lot of classic on DVD too, so I'm not hurting for Doctor Who, but I know a lot of people are. That's real good for the fandom, guys. No, they're negotiating, of course. I know how it goes, but it's tough out here if you don't have the DVDs. Luckily, I do, so I was able to continue doing the research for this video. He did slow things down a little bit, and we are posting a little late. I didn't post last week, but I'm back this week. I think I'm going to have to move to a bi-weekly schedule with the way things have been working out. I was posting weekly there for a while, fell off pretty hard, and then it was so hard to get back into the weekly mode that I just didn't for a long time. But now that I'm back into making videos and getting into a good rhythm, I think I'm going to, for the time being at least, try to dedicate a bi-weekly rhythm. So I'll take off next week, post the following week, and I'm trying to post every week that I post on Wednesdays. So look out for Who Essays on Who Wednesday. Yeah, do something about it. It's the end of the video. What you gonna do? Back out now? Anyway, speaking of which, there's a lot of new people on the channel. I say a lot. I'm a little channel, and I see every single person who's new in the comments. I see every new subscriber, and I'm super thankful for all you guys. The last video got a lot of love. Again, I say a lot. It was 400 views in a week, and those, I know other channels would scoff at those numbers, but that is huge to me. I mean, that is so cool to see you guys pour out and actually show up in the comments. My comment section is usually so, but it was popping. It was popping on the last video. I really appreciate that engagement. I really appreciate you guys coming out and chatting with each other, chatting with me. That's really all I'm here for.
Those guys, they helped you. I love those guys.
So I really appreciate you guys coming out. And like I said before, you know, if you come in the comments and, you know, to have a chat, if you've got something going on, I look at every single profile. If someone comments on my video, I look at who they are. I go check out their channel. So if you've got something and you want eyes on it, just drop a comment down and I'll go look at it. You know, I'm always looking for stuff to look at on YouTube. I'm on my phone way too much, but you know, give me something good to look at so I'm not doom scrolling. Anyway, so we will be back not next week, but the following Wednesday. We're going to be having a little chat about, I don't know which one's coming next with the way that these are getting recorded. We have 3 videos upcoming in the next couple of weeks, over the next month, I should say. We're doing a video about returning villains and characters in the most recent era of the show. It's been a hot topic. We're going to talk about it. And I'm also putting together my watch list for how to watch the show. If you're new to the show, or if you're returning to the show, or if you just want to do a power watch before, you know, War Between Land and the Sea. I was going to say the next season, but the next season is goodness knows. But anyway, I'm doing a watch list episode. We got a lot of stuff coming down the pipelines, is what I'm saying. So stick around, subscribe if you'd like to, drop a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.